Going for Stokes there in the 8th inning. I feel like you just, 3 days in a row for the first time in a while. Like, I feel like you just asked a little too much from him, or?
No, they wanted in the game. You know what I mean? They wanted in the game, and they wanted to get into those spots. And so, we weren't going to hold them back when they wanted the baseball. Were they able to handle it as effectively as the other nights and all that kind of stuff? That's a different discussion. But they wanted the baseball. They get the opportunity. They've been going good in that same setup, and we didn't start the inning with those guys because we've asked some of them here the last 2 days, and so we tried to manage a piece as best we had.
How about that moment for Jackson just getting out of that jam there? What'd you think of that?
Big, really big. Growth character-wise, just really big. He's a senior, but I think he's probably got another year of eligibility left, so I'm going to try to keep him. And just for him to have the poise to be able to get out of that jam, that's not an easy deal right there, right? Bases loaded situation, and be able to do what he did. Tremendous little pop-up and a strikeout.
You bring Twist in there against Taggett, their best hitter. What's your confidence level in him as a pitcher, and just how do you kind of see his role going forward these next couple weeks?
Well, confidence level in him, tying run at the plate. We're bringing him in the 9th inning with 1 out. It's about as confident as you can get in a young man, and I mean he's got a heck of an arm, and I wanted him to know that this staff believes in him. And he's gone through a recovery just like anybody who's gone through some sort of an injury or setback. And I want him to know that he's going to be he's believed upon around here, no matter if he's gone through what he's gone through or not. We trust in him, and we were excited to get him back, and can't wait to see him pitch again.
You mentioned yesterday about Chase, where you hope that he comes alive here down the stretch. Run shot today. Just again, what have you seen from him the last couple of weeks?
Well, yeah, and being ready to throw, we figured that they might even, we figured they might run in the 1-2 count right there with 2 outs, and coach elevated a fastball to give Chase a good chance to throw on it, and he gunned him right. That was a tremendous play. That's a leadership play. Does Burke and Cohen have that kind of poise to be able to throw that best bolt down to second base like Chase did right there in the game? Don't know, but that's why we have Chase in the game, and I feel like that's how the experience is going to help him. He did help us as a team. He did have a really good at-bat earlier in the game too. So I think Chase is doing well.
What's it like having him back at full force after a great series?
I'm sorry?
What's it like having him back kind of at full force after such a great series?
Who's that?
Chase.
Well, it sucked when you start the year and the guy's not with you, because he had an injury and I think it was 2 weeks before the start of the regular season, right? Something along those lines. He had an injury, set him back 6 weeks. So when you got a guy that's as good as he was a year ago, and he was our best hitter, especially down the stretch, beat out a player that was drafted, and a heck of a player. We missed him, and so to have him back now, and it appears like he's at 100% now. The experience, I would feel like, should help the ball club. Yeah.
What can you say about this senior class and what it's meant to you?
Well, you look at the banner. That's what I told him when we just met. You look at the banner. So if a guy showed up here in 21, I don't know when the guys all started here. Some of them started at different times, but you just look at the banner and like we talk about, that's why we wanted to have the graphics at the ballpark, because eventually these guys are going to come back with their, moms, first off, Mother's Day, all the moms out there, we love you and thank you for what you do and putting up with us and giving us a chance. But when you're coming back with your families, right? You're coming back with your moms and dads and your kids maybe someday, and you see graphically the years that they played here and the success that they've had in postseason. I think that says an awful lot about the senior class. When you look up there, and it's every single year they've been in postseason play, whether it's regional, super regional. Those kids are building the program into something that I think the fans really wanted, when we first took over, and we're trying to deliver that for them. And at the beginning of the year, we had some naysayers that were, not sold on the fact that they didn't know if we had beat anybody that was good or not or anything like that. Not taking a shot at you, James. I think you were right. But at the same point, now we see those teams that we played early on in the year were good enough to win their conferences, and those guys were allowed us to have a non-conference strength of schedule inside of 10. I think it's 7 right now, our non-conference strength of schedule, and our non-conference RPI is really good. And so, I do think there was a time to really scratch our heads, because we had some stinker losses, right? We did. And I think that the people that identified that, I respected them, because I think that was telling the story, and that's what the media's job is to do, is to tell the real story.
You give yourself a chance to compete for a league title next weekend. That's all you could ask for after this weekend.
Well,
In
we're
the big picture.
That's right.
What does that mean? That yes, you have a chance to earn your way still to a regular season title.
Well, absolutely. And I don't know how the chips all settled today and everything like that, but we get a chance to go up against Iowa next weekend, and I know they're in front of us, and us winning 3 games against Iowa would put us in front of them. I don't know how the rest of it shakes out, but yeah, I think that's an awesome place for us to try to challenge for the league championship in our last weekend of the year. That's what we want.
Coach, you talked to us a couple times about the ability to win in different ways, and this is another time we've seen offensive production early on, and then it kind of halts, and you guys are able to hold on. What can be taken away from like a gritty win like that, where you hold out on a lead?
Well, we hadn't done that, at times during the year, right? And so it's, again, that experience, having that experience to where you can close the deal and finish the game is, that's, again, back to Chase Maggers. When you have guys with experience, then they come through in those positions and they don't double clutch right there to where the guy's safe or something else happens, right? They have the experience and the poise to be able to execute and play their best when the game requires it. So, the guys are playing really hard, and for us to win that kind of a game right there, that's important for the team.
All season you've talked about West Coast baseball and how West Coast baseball is kind of underrated to the rest of the country, but it's been kind of in regards of your guys' opponents like St. Mary's and Oregon State and USC. How does it feel that Oregon has kind of came out on top, just as the king of West Coast baseball right now?
Well, we still have season left. I guess I'll humbly say that. We still have some season left. We've done good up to this point. I've been a proponent of West Coast baseball my whole career. I think it's really good, and when you got us and Oregon State, they're a really good team. UCLA's a really good team. Southern Cal's a really good team. You've got some really good West Coast teams, and that's not excluding the Irvines of the world and people like that. I think there's really good baseball on the West Coast. In my opinion, there should easily be discussions of at least 3, if not more, host sites on the West Coast because of how well the West Coast teams have played. With that, it could easily be said for 4 host teams, 4 host sites on the West Coast, based off of of the guys that have done well. So, I'm a big fan of West Coast baseball. I think it's really good and competitive, and I love being a part of the University of Oregon. I'm happy I get a chance to work here. This is a blessing.
Going back to Iowa, what are some of the goals the team has for that series after taking the sweep this weekend?
Win 1 game in a row 3 times. Simple as that.
What'd you see from Jason tonight? I think he did 40 pitches in his first 2 innings, but then only like 30 across the next 3. How did he settle in?
Well, I think he was landing his pitches a little bit better as he got going, 3rd, 4th, 5th inning. You got his 2-seamer working. He was able to elevate his fastball when he needed to, and his secondary pitches just landed for strikes. Early in the game, it was a little inconsistent. He didn't quite have the same percentages as he did as he got going.